a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. London. London is the capital and most populous city of England and the United Kingdom. Standing on the River Thames in the southeast of the island of Great Britain, London has been a major settlement for 2 millennia. Londinium was founded by the Romans. The City of London, London's ancient core minus covering an area of just 1.12 square miles and nicknamed the Square Mile minus, retains its medieval boundaries. The City of Westminster is an inner London borough which also holds city status. It occupies much of the central area of Greater London, including most of the West End. It is to the west of the City of London. Greater London is governed by the Mayor of London and the London Assembly. London is one of the leading global cities in the arts, commerce, education, entertainment, fashion, finance, healthcare, media, professional services, research and development, tourism and transportation. It is one of the world's largest financial centers and has the 5th or 6th largest metropolitan area GDP in the world. London is often regarded as a world cultural capital. It is the world's most visited city as measured by international arrivals and has the world's largest city airport system measured by passenger traffic. It is the world's leading investment destination, hosting more international retailers and ultra-high net worth individuals than any other city. London's universities form the largest concentration of higher education institutes in Europe. In 2012, London became the first city to have hosted 3 modern Summer Olympic Games. London has a diverse range of people and cultures, and more than 300 languages are spoken in the region. Its estimated mid-2016 municipal population was 8,787,892, the largest of any city in the European Union and accounting for 13.4% of the UK population. London's urban area is the second most populous in the EU, after Paris, with 9,787,426 inhabitants in the 2011 census. The city's metropolitan area is the most populous in the EU with 14,040,163 inhabitants in 2016. While the Greater London Authority states the population of the city region as 22.7 million. London was the world's most populous city from around 1831 to 1925. London contains 4 World Heritage Sites, the Tower of London, Kew Gardens, the site comprising the Palace of Westminster, Westminster Abbey, and St Margaret's Church, and the historic settlement of Greenwich. Other landmarks include Buckingham Palace, the London Eye, Piccadilly Circus, St Paul's Cathedral, Tower Bridge, Trafalgar Square, and the Shard. London is home to numerous museums, galleries, libraries, sporting events, and other cultural institutions, including the British Museum, National Gallery, Natural History Museum, Tate Modern, British Library and West End Theatres. The London Underground is the oldest underground railway network in the world. Etymology. The etymology of London is uncertain. It is an ancient name, attested already in the 1st century AD, usually in the Latinized form Londinium. For example, handwritten Roman tablets recovered in the city originating from AD 65–70–80 include the word Londinio. Over the years, the name has attracted many mythicizing explanations. The earliest attested appears in Geoffrey of Monmouth's Historia Regum Britannia, written around 1136. This had it that the name originated from a supposed King Lud, who had allegedly taken over the city, and named it Ca-Alud. Modern scientific analyses of the name must account for the origins of the different forms found in early sources Latin, Old English, and Welsh, with reference to the known developments over time of sounds in those different languages. It is agreed that the name came into these languages from Common Brythonic. Recent work tends to reconstruct the lost Celtic form of the name as Londonjon, or something similar. This was adapted into Latin as Londinium and borrowed into West Germanic, the ancestor language of English, before English had become widely spoken in what later became England. The etymology and original meaning of the Common Brythonic form is much debated. A prominent explanation was Richard Cote's 1998 argument that the name derived from pre-Celtic Old European Loanida, meaning river too wide to ford. Coates suggested that this was a name given to the part of the River Thames which flows through London. From this, the settlement gained the Celtic form of its name, Lowen-Iden-John. However, most work has accepted a Celtic origin for the name, and recent studies have favoured an explanation along the lines of a Celtic derivative of an Proto-Indo-European root lend, combined with the Celtic suffix injo, or onjo. Peter Shriver has specifically suggested, on these grounds, that the name originally meant place that floods. Until 1889, the name, London, officially applied only to the City of London. But since then it has also referred to the County of London and now to Greater London. London is sometimes written informally as Eldon. Prehistory. In 1993, the remains of a Bronze Age bridge were found on the south foreshore, upstream of Vauxhall Bridge. This bridge either crossed the Thames or reached a now lost island in it. Two of those timbers were radiocarbon dated to between 1750 BC and 1285 BC. In 2010, the foundations of a large timber structure, dated to between 4800 BC and 4500 BC, were found on the Thames south foreshore, downstream of Vauxhall Bridge. The function of the Mesolithic structure is not known. Both structures are on the south bank where the River Effra flows into the Thames. Roman London. Although there is evidence of scattered Brythonic settlements in the area, the first major settlement was founded by the Romans about 4 years after the invasion of AD 43. This lasted only until around AD 61, when the Iceni tribe led by Queen Boadicea stormed it, burning it to the ground. The next, heavily planned, incarnation of Londinium prospered, and it superseded Colchester as the capital of the Roman province of Britannia in 100. At its height in the 2nd century, Roman London had a population of around 60,000. Anglo-Saxon London and Viking period. With the collapse of Roman rule in the early 5th century, London ceased to be a capital, and the walled city of Londinium was effectively abandoned, although Roman civilization continued in the area of St. Martin in the Fields until around 450. From around 500, an Anglo-Saxon settlement known as Londonwick developed slightly west of the old Roman city. By about 680, the city had regrown into a major port, although there is little evidence of large-scale production. From the 820s, repeated Viking assaults brought decline. 3 are recorded. Those in 851 and 886 succeeded, while the last, in 994, was rebuffed. The Vikings established Danelaw over much of eastern and northern England. Its boundary stretched roughly from London to Chester. It was an area of political and geographical control imposed by the Viking incursions, which was formally agreed by the Danish warlord Guthrum and the West Saxon king Alfred the Great in 886. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle recorded that Alfred refounded London in 886. Archaeological research shows that this involved abandonment of Londonwick and a revival of life and trade within the old Roman walls. London then grew slowly until about 950, after which activity increased dramatically. By the 11th century, London was beyond all comparison the largest town in England. Westminster Abbey, rebuilt in the Romanesque style by King Edward the Confessor, was one of the grandest churches in Europe. Winchester had previously been the capital of Anglo-Saxon England, but from this time on, London became the main forum for foreign traders and the base for defence in time of war. In the view of Frank Stenton, it had the resources, and it was rapidly developing the dignity and the political self-consciousness appropriate to a national capital. Middle Ages. After winning the Battle of Hastings, William, Duke of Normandy, was crowned King of England in the newly completed Westminster Abbey on Christmas Day 1066. William constructed the Tower of London, the first of the many Norman castles in England to be rebuilt in stone, in the southeastern corner of the city, to intimidate the native inhabitants. In 1097, William II began the building of Westminster Hall, close by the abbey of the same name. The hall became the basis of a new Palace of Westminster. In the 12th century, the institutions of central government, which had hitherto accompanied the Royal English court as it moved around the country, grew in size and sophistication and became increasingly fixed in one place. For most purposes this was Westminster, although the royal treasury, having been moved from Winchester, came to rest in the Tower. While the City of Westminster developed into a true capital in governmental terms, its distinct neighbour, the City of London, remained England's largest city and principal commercial centre, and it flourished under its own unique administration, the Corporation of London. In 1100, its population was around 18,000. By 1300 it had grown to nearly 100,000. Disaster struck in the form of the Black Death in the mid-14th century, when London lost nearly a third of its population. London was the focus of the Peasants' Revolt in 1381. London was also a centre of England's Jewish population before their expulsion by Edward I in 1290. Violence against Jews took place in 1190. After it was rumoured that the new king had ordered their massacre after they had presented themselves at his coronation. In 1264, during the Second Barons' War, Simon de Montfort's rebels killed 500 Jews while attempting to seize records of debts. Early modern. During the Tudor period, the Reformation produced a gradual shift to Protestantism, and much of London property passed from church to private ownership, which accelerated trade and business in the city. In 1475, the Hanseatic League set up its main trading base of England in London, called the Stalehof or Steelyard. It existed until 1853, when the Hanseatic cities of Lübeck, Bremen, and Hamburg sold the property to Southeastern Railway. Woolen cloth was shipped undyed and undressed from 14th–15th century London to the nearby shores of the Low Countries, where it was considered indispensable. But the reach of English maritime enterprise hardly extended beyond the seas of northwest Europe. The commercial route to Italy and the Mediterranean Sea normally lay through Antwerp and over the Alps. Any ships passing through the Strait of Gibraltar to or from England were likely to be Italian or Agusan. Upon the reopening of the Netherlands to English shipping in January 1565, there ensued a strong outburst of commercial activity. The Royal Exchange was founded. Mercantilism grew, and monopoly trading companies such as the East India Company were established, with trade expanding to the New World. London became the principal North Sea port, with migrants arriving from England and abroad. The population rose from an estimated 50,000 in 1530 to about 225,000 in 1605. In the 16th century, William Shakespeare and his contemporaries lived in London at a time of hostility to the development of the theatre. By the end of the Tudor period in 1603, London was still very compact. There was an assassination attempt on James I in Westminster, in the Gunpowder Plot on the 5th of November 1605. In the English Civil War, the majority of Londoners supported the parliamentary cause. After an initial advance by the Royalists in 1642, culminating in the battles of Brentford and Turnham Green, London was surrounded by a defensive perimeter wall known as the Lines of Communication. The lines were built by up to 20,000 people, and were completed in under 2 months. The fortifications failed their only test when the New Model Army entered London in 1647, and they were levelled by Parliament the same year. London was plagued by disease in the early 17th century, culminating in the Great Plague of 1666, which killed up to 100,000 people, or a fifth of the population. The Great Fire of London broke out in 1666 in Pudding Lane in the city and quickly swept through the wooden buildings. Rebuilding took over 10 years and was supervised by Robert Hooke as Surveyor of London. In 1708, Christopher Wren's masterpiece, St. Paul's Cathedral, was completed. During the Georgian era, new districts such as Mayfair were formed in the west. New bridges over the Thames encouraged development in South London. In the east, the Port of London expanded downstream. London's development as an international financial centre matured for much of the 1700s. In 1762, George III acquired Buckingham House, and it was enlarged over the next 75 years. During the 18th century, London was dogged by crime, and the Bow Street Runners were established in 1750 as a professional police force. In total, more than 200 offences were punishable by death, including petty theft. Most children born in the city died before reaching their third birthday. The coffeehouse became a popular place to debate ideas, with growing literacy and the development of the printing press making news widely available. and Fleet Street became the centre of the British press. Following the invasion of Amsterdam by Napoleonic armies, many financiers relocated to London, especially a large Jewish community, and the first London International issue was arranged in 1817. Around the same time, the Royal Navy became the world-leading war fleet, acting as a serious deterrent to potential economic adversaries of the United Kingdom. The repeal of the Corn Laws in 1846 was specifically aimed at weakening Dutch economic power. London then overtook Amsterdam as the leading international financial centre. In 1888, London became home to a series of murders by a man known only as Jack the Ripper, and it has since become one of the world's most famous unsolved mysteries. According to Samuel Johnson, Late Modern and Contemporary, London was the world's largest city from about 1831 to 1925. London's overcrowded conditions led to cholera epidemics, claiming 14,000 lives in 1848 and 6,000 in 1866. Rising traffic congestion led to the creation of the world's first local urban rail network. The Metropolitan Board of Works oversaw infrastructure expansion in the capital and some of the surrounding counties. It was abolished in 1889 when the London County Council was created out of those areas of the counties surrounding the capital. London was bombed by the Germans during the First World War, and during the Second World War, the Blitz and other bombings by the German Luftwaffe killed over 30,000 Londoners, destroying large tracts of housing and other buildings across the city. Immediately after the war, the 1948 Summer Olympics were held at the original Wembley Stadium, at a time when London was still recovering from the war. From the 1940s onwards, London became home to a large number of immigrants, primarily from Commonwealth countries such as Jamaica, India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, making London one of the most diverse cities worldwide. In 1951, the Festival of Britain was held on the South Bank. The Great Smog of 1952 led to the Clean Air Act 1956, which ended the pea soup fogs, for which London had been notorious. Primarily starting in the mid-1960s, London became a centre for the worldwide youth culture, exemplified by the swinging London subculture associated with the King's Road, Chelsea, and Carnaby Street. The role of trendsetter was revived during the punk era. In 1965, London's political boundaries were expanded to take into account the growth of the urban area, and a new Greater London Council was created. During the Troubles in Northern Ireland, London was subjected to bombing attacks by the Provisional IRA for 2 decades, starting with the Old Bailey bombing in 1973. Racial inequality was highlighted by the 1981 Brixton riot. Greater London's population declined steadily in the decades after the Second World War, from an estimated peak of 8.6 million in 1939 to around 6.8 million in the 1980s. The principal ports for London moved downstream to Felixstowe and Tilbury, with the London Docklands area becoming a focus for regeneration, including the Canary Wharf development. This was born out of London's ever-increasing role as a major international financial centre during the 1980s. The Thames Barrier was completed in the 1980s to protect London against tidal surges from the North Sea. The Greater London Council was abolished in 1986, which left London without a central administration until 2000, when London-wide government was restored, with the creation of the Greater London Authority. To celebrate the start of the 21st century, the Millennium Dome, London Eye and Millennium Bridge were constructed. On 6 July 2005, London was awarded the 2012 Summer Olympics, making London the first city to stage the Olympic Games 3 times. On 7 July 2005, 3 London Underground trains and a double-decker bus were bombed in a series of terrorist attacks. In 2008, London named alongside New York City and Hong Kong as Nylon Kong, being hailed as the world's 3 most influential global cities. In January 2015, Greater London's population was estimated to be 8.63 million, the highest level since 1939. During the Brexit referendum in 2016, the UK as a whole decided to leave the European Union, but a majority of London constituencies voted to remain in the EU. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?